If you've ever been ignored by women or simply just do not get respect from men, well buddy, there's a big reason for that. And unfortunately, unless you're an absolute arsehole, it isn't your personality or your confidence. Today, I am breaking down the ultimate look scale, the single least neurotypical thing you've ever seen in your life. And before we jump into the numbers, you're going to actually have to know how the scale itself works. And the main premise I've taken here is all about stacking halos and reducing failos, also known as flaws. Now, if you're wondering what a halo is and what a phalo is, a halo is typically regarded as a positive feature. This could be a straight hairline, clear glowing skin, or looking awfully similar to Superman. Now, a phalo, on the other hand, could be quite the opposite of that, such as poor health indicators, bad acne, or a receding hairline. So the more halos that you have, the easier it is to be a higher rating, even with more phalos. So now that you understand halos and phalos, here's how you, the viewer, can identify just exactly where you stand. First up, subby, also known as sub. This is what I call the danger zone. This is typically where the genetic outliers sit, and not exactly the outlier that you want to be. But nevertheless, this category will typically involve people who are very genetically unfortunate looking, or to be absolutely brutal, people with disfigurements or burn victims. So if you're someone who genetically sits at this level, and you're on the same level as someone with a disfigurement, I think it's time to look max. Now moving on up to the range. This is where we start to look more human. Although you may start to look like a human, you're not necessarily going to be treated like one. Now some ways to tell if you're an incel or not is literally in the word. If you are an involuntary celibate. If you are an incel, simply put, it does not matter what you do, what you say, how much money you have, how successful you are. You could compensate for almost anything, and it's probably not going to work out for you. Moving on up to low tier normie at 3.5 to 4.5. This is where you start to be within the majority of people. Typically 80% of people are lying in the low tier normie to high tier normie range. So if you've stumbled upon this channel, chances are that's probably where you are. Now the low tier normie range is arguably one of the worst stages to be in. And the reason for that is because it simply keeps you confused. When you're an innie or a subby, you damn well know you're unattractive. But the thing is, when you're a low tier normie, you'll most likely tell your friends about your lack of success with women, and these are the exact people who receive the most amount of advice, typically sounding like, just be confident bro, or just go up and talk to her bro, it worked for me. Mid tier normie, it's going to be pretty similar to low tier normie, but this is the tier where you're actually going to likely be able to attract women, and not have to massively overcompensate for things like a low tier normie would. Now you're still going to have to overcompensate, let's be real. You might have to watch the Harley Twins channel and build an aesthetic physique, or be in the top 10% of income earners. Now moving on to high tier normie. High tier normie is going to be within 5.5 to 6.5. This is actually the tier where you become visible to women. And once you reach this tier, you're going to know it. Things are just going to flip like a switch. You're going to instantly be like, holy fuck, women find me attractive. This is crazy. You start getting results on Tinder. You start feeling more confident. And this is the tier where you start to unlock the halo effect. So pretty much the rest of your life is actually going to increase in quality. Simply put, just because you've unlocked a positive feedback loop. To put it simply, a high tier normie is going to be the best looking guy in your estate. Now moving on up to Chadlites. This is when people in real life start to get that Chad treatment. By now, you've fully unlocked the halo effect. Most of your personality traits are seen as positive. You could be arrogant, it could be perceived as confidence. You could be shy and it could be seen as mysterious. Think of anything and it applies. I don't know if you see those memes and there's like 3 people in a photo, and there's a guy thinking about the girl that's next to him, and then there's the girl thinking about the guy that's next to him. That's pretty much what you are as a Chadlite. You're essentially the top of the food chain in your local area or your school. It's also the tier where you're going to start to get modeling contracts. A lot of celebrities are within this tier as well, and you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. Now moving on to Chad. If you are a Chad, you're not watching this video. You're too busy sitting on a yacht in London, in Paris, in Milan. You're earning a living off of your looks alone. Forget about wage slaving, forget about developing a personality, forget about even developing moral values. Just ask Jeremy Meeks. Just like I said how high tier normie is the best looking guy in your estate, a Chad is the best looking guy in your entire state. Sometimes half the country. And finally, moving on to Gigachad. Yeah, these people just don't exist. I'm joking, of course, they do exist. Only in the chasm of the internet, because you will not see someone who looks like this in your life, ever. Even guys who are considered Gigachads were literally only considered Gigachads for only a few years of their life, when they were in their prime. As a Gigachad, you have to have everything. A Gigachad is essentially a PSL god in his prime. Think of Prime Sean O'Prime, Prime Dolph Lundgren, overall an SMV of course, not just facially. A Gigachad is essentially a Gigachad if he was morphed with a TikTok filter and had his photos run through FaceApp. This is a mythical tier, and that's the reason why I've kept it at 9.5. Anything beyond 9.5 essentially does not exist in this mere realm, and only lies upon the gates of Gandhi's heaven. Simply put, if you're a Gigachad, you can be deaf, blind, or even mentally stunted, and you have the world at your fingertips, and many, many modeling contracts. Now, I know you're probably looking at this scale and thinking, holy fuck, I thought I was a 7, an 8. Damn, I must be a bona fide subhuman. Well, that might be the case. This doesn't have to be you forever. Most guys can get better by at least 4 points. And you're probably thinking 4 points. You're saying I can go from a subhuman to a high tier normie naturally? Well, yes. And this is because people do not actually realize their full potential. It is a lot harder to look good than it is to look bad. While yes, it is physical, it requires a high IQ, IQ, a lot of discipline, and at least average genetics. But please believe you have the power to change how you look, and you have the power to shape your reality. Because while yes, looks are extremely important, you should never let them negatively dictate your life. So now that you know where you stand on the scale, what are you going to do about it? So if you'd like to develop the clarity to know how you can exactly transform your own looks and unlock a transformation similar to mine or even more impressive, feel free to book a call with me with the link in the description, and we can talk casually about whether my looks maxing mentorship seems right for you. I'm your past self, and I'll see you in the next one.